This is an adaptation of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven by Miss Langton's Period 6 class. On a gloomy, sad, and dull night, a man is sitting up at midnight, thinking deeply about something while reading a strange set of books. He is tired and not feeling physically strong, so much so that he is almost asleep. At once, he hears a soft knocking at the door of his room. He says out loud to himself that the sound is most likely someone who is visiting him. He starts to think that it is pretty late for a visitor, so to keep himself from becoming scared, he says again, "It is just someone knocking. It can't possibly be anything else."
The man remembered an important night of his life so clearly. It was on a frigid, cold night of December when he sat by a dying fire, keeping warm. He impatiently wants it to be tomorrow. Persistently, but unsuccessfully, the man is trying to distract himself by reading. He wants to take inspiration from his books to drown his sadness for the death of his beloved Lenore, the beautiful young woman he used to be married to. He is deeply saddened by her death and trying to make himself feel better.
The movement of the curtains even seemed sad to him. Watching these curtains rustle and listen to the knocking was turning his life miserable and quite scared. To calm himself and his quickening heartbeat, he repeated to himself that it was just some visitor who had come to see him at late hours and nothing else.
He was napping and then he heard a quiet knock on the door, so quiet he could barely hear it coming to the bedroom door. After a short time of him hesitating, the narrator said out loud, "Hey, I wish I could take a nap here in peace." Then the narrator begged for forgiveness because he was napping while they were knocking on the bedroom door. Then he finally got up and opened the door and saw nothing but darkness.
At the moment, the man was hesitating to yell. Then the man started begging for forgiveness because he was sleeping while they knocked. After the Sarah man was knocking on the man's door, the man yelled, "Hey, I was trying to take a nap. Don't you disturb me." The man complained, "If you wanted me to hear you knocking, you shouldn't have knocked so soft." The man yelled. The man had opened the door, but there was nothing. "I swear I heard knocking," the man exclaimed. I did," the man promised.
Into the darkness, looking through, long the man stood there, wondering, fearing, not believing, dreaming dreams no human ever dared to dream before. But the silence was not disturbed, and the stillness gave no sound. And the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore." This the man whispered, and echoed softly back the word, "Lenore." This, just this, and nothing more.
Going back to his bedroom from the door, the man is on edge from the knocking at his door. A moment later, he hears a knocking at the window, much louder than the first knock before. Frightened by the knocking, the man blew it off and said, "It's probably just something at my window, like a wispy tree caught in the wind. Even so, I will still check and see what the knocking is." In this mysterious occurrence, let me sit for a moment and ponder what the knocking may be. After thinking, he came to the conclusion that it was only the wind and nothing else.
After hearing a tap at his window in his room, he thought it was nothing but the wind, so the man quickly opened a window to see who was there. Then suddenly a bird flew in, a raven. The bird would not stop carelessly flying around his room until he was sitting on top of the door frame. The raven was sitting on top of the bust of Pallas, a statue of the goddess of wisdom. The raven just sat there watching the man and doing nothing other than that.
Then the blackbird tricked the man's sad imagination into smiling, because he looked so serious. He knows the bird is not a coward, but he is wondering why he is there, and where he came from. He says to the ghostly, scary, and ancient raven walking from the boundaries of the underworld, "What are you going to say? What is your name?" The raven says, "Nevermore."
After the raven said nevermore, a man wondered about an ungraceful bird. After unexcitedly hearing a conversation, the response made little sense, such little sense that nothing was directly related to it and was super boring. For the narrator could not help but agree that no human alive today was ever happier than the man seeing a bird above his bedroom door. Bird or wild animal next to the sculpture shattered over his door, and the raven's name, such as
The raven was sitting on the bust of Pallas. He looked lonely as he only spoke nevermore. The man was still shocked by the speaking bird, so he tried to think about the talking bird by the name Nevermore, which the man knew meant no, never, and never again. The man was confused by the name and amused, but soon realized the raven would leave him just like his loved ones have left him before. But then the bird says, nevermore.
The man was startled by the raven replying, nevermore, because what the raven said is a bad sign. Caught by some unhappy master whose terrible disaster followed fast and followed faster till a song heavy bore, till his hope that heavy bore of never, nevermore.
But the raven somehow made the man smile, and he dragged a chair over to look at the bird. He starts to entertain himself thinking about what this odd and terrifying raven means when he says, nevermore.
The man in his chair is wondering where the bird in his room is from and why he is there. He thinks of possible answers to these questions in silence. As the man is thinking, he is suddenly aware of the bird's intense gaze. He feels as though the bird can see right through him to his emotions and is unsettled by this thought. He reclines in the chair, watching how the lamplight lights up the velvet-lined cushion. He comes to the harsh realization that Lenore will never again sit in the chair he is sitting on now. He is reminded that Lenore will never be with him again in a physical form. Nevermore will he see Lenore.
Then it seemed the air changed. He is upset at the raven's answer. Wicked bird! Horrible thing! He cries. I must drink my memories of Lenore away and forget my lost love. The raven said, No, you will not.
You were sent from God, the man said. You're evil. I don't know if you're an evil messenger or a normal bird, but whether you were sent from Satan or you just tumbled in, you are telling me something. This world is empty, sad, and full of darkness. Please tell me, will I ever see my Lenore again? Will I ever be free from this sadness and pain? Please, please tell me. No, the raven said, you'll never see her again. The man is crushed and falls into a deep anger.
The man begins to grow more and more angry as he turns to insanity, yelling at the raven. Messenger, if you're a bird or even a devil, tell this soul burdened with sadness, will I ever be back with my lost loved one Lenore? Will I join her in heaven? Says the man. You will not see her again, says the raven.
The man came to the understanding that it was the raven or the devil. The man was startled and had a sudden realization that the raven was the devil. He yells at the raven to go back to hell. The man tells the raven to stop giving him reminders of Lenore. Leave me just in despair, and don't try to make me feel better. Stop hurting my heart by hinting Lenore somehow with me. However, the raven only says, nevermore. This means the raven is saying that the man will be with Lenore again.
And the raven, never moving, just sitting with a lack of energy, sitting on a statue of a Greek god Pallas, just above the man's bedroom door. And the raven's eyes gleamed demon-like with the light of the lamp casting a shadow off the bird onto the floor. And the shadow of the man's soul, had been trapped. Then the raven says one last time, nevermore, meaning he will never be able to see his loved Lenore once more.